welcome back to this week's Uncovery Podcast episode. My name is Maddie and I'm in recovery from anorexia, and I talk about it on this podcast either by myself or with other people and experts and guests. But today it's just me, and this is going to be a little bite. So first off, I was going to share just a little tiny recovery win because I think these are really important to attach to and look at, where you've come from and then where you are, and just notice the little things that you definitely wouldn't have seen, even months ago or something like that. And today it's my fingernails. So my fingernails are so long and so strong. And I don't know if I've ever had this long of nails naturally and not had them like break off or, sort of start to shred. If you've ever had long nails, then you understand what I'm talking about. And I haven't been doing, anything in particular for them. Sometimes I'll paint them, sometimes I won't. But they're so much longer and stronger. And I've taken, biotin and those hair, skin, and nail vitamins for ages, and they never did shit because I wasn't eating enough. But I think it's a couple of things going on. And one is that I'm eating more, and I'm like definitely having a lot of, protein and more food in general. So obviously more nutrients, more building blocks for your body. And I don't know why it would go to my fingernails, but I'm like, I feel like there's other places that probably need some healing too, but that's not really how the body works. I don't know how rebuilding inside your cells actually works, but my nails are really long and really strong. So I think it's partially this nutritional rebalancing, but it's also, I think, the fact that my anxiety has probably never been lower. And maybe it's because I'm very exhausted or, whatever. But even when I'm not, my anxiety has been at an all-time low. And I used to sort of pick at my nails or play with them or chip at them, and I could never just let them be. And it would be this go-to for me when I was uncomfortable, that I would just sort of pick at or kind of touch or chew or just like bite my nails. I've definitely gone through periods where I've just bit my nails. So they never really had a fighting chance before. But because my anxiety is so much lower now, just at a baseline, and I'm eating more, than my nails are long and strong, and that's cool. And it's just like a different thing. And it's just like a very small piece of recovery that maybe doesn't matter that much, but it's just nice to notice a change in a little small way. That's cool. All right. So today we're going to talk about affirmations. So affirmations are something I've been thinking about a little bit lately, because even though there are very good changes, like my nails, there are also changes that are making me extremely uncomfortable, or situations that still do bring that anxiety back up, or days where I just feel really blah. And one of these tools in the toolbox is to use affirmations. And in trying to tolerate uncomfortable feelings, it's these statements that are I am statements for a lot of them. So I am beautiful. I am strong. I am overcoming. And I use them, and I've used them on and off as sort of a way to journal or a way to focus on something positive. But I really don't think that they have resonated with me a lot in the past, and still certain ways of using them really still doesn't resonate with me. There are, 10 million of them, and you see these articles that are, 322 affirmations for eating disorder recovery. Like, I'm worthy of nourishment. I am worthy of food. And I don't think that they're enough. And they've been positioned as a bit of a catch-all, and it's very easy to sort of just automatic pilot, say them, write them, and not have them really work because they don't feel resonant, or at least they haven't for me a lot of the time. And I'm recording this because I'm wondering if this is a common experience or if anybody else has this, because it feels like it should work more than it does for me. And I feel this shame when it doesn't, because I've really struggled with them. And so how they're supposed to work is there are these I am statements. You're repeating them to yourself over and over, or you're writing them down. And it's intended to put your headspace in this sort of manifestation place to have these things then come to you. Because if you say them enough over and over and over, the idea is that you can sort of rebuild that neural pathway to start to actually believe it. And so they can actually be either inspirational messages and quotes, and you're trying to gather this motivation to stay the course or believe these things that you're telling yourself. Some techniques that people use is either journaling them, writing them down. I've also seen or had recommended that you write it on a Post-it and then you put that Post-it somewhere. So if it has something to do with, eating, then you put a little Post-it on your fridge. It's like, you can do this, like eat the food. And so that when they're there, you see them, it reminds you, and there's these reminders. And the idea is that because your brain is malleable, that these little nuggets eventually start to change your neurochemistry, and that's neuroplasticity. So your brain can be shaped when something is done over and over and over again. And it's really, really, really cool neuroplasticity, but I just don't know if affirmations themselves are enough if they're not treated a certain way. So we're really encouraged in recovery, or even just in sort of spiritual spaces or positive type of inspiration spaces, either online or offline, to use these affirmations. And it's not been resonant to me. And I felt really weird about it because I wanted it to work. And one in particular that I used to really focus on was I am enough. Because of the idea that, the reason that I have my eating disorder is this sort of deeply held belief that I'm not enough. And that doesn't mean that that isn't true, that is a, one particular root, I think, of why I struggle and how I struggle, and my mentality around my eating disorder. But I was so fixated on this one affirmation, which is I am enough, I am enough. And I don't know if I ever really, really felt it, or maybe I just wanted it to feel resonant so badly and I wanted it to be true. But it just never really felt like anything. And I felt broken to an extent, or a bit numb about it. So there's a few reasons I think that this doesn't work and might not work for everyone, and definitely not work for everybody in the same way, in the way that it's kind of presented. One is that it depends on what the affirmation is, whether or not it matches what the negatively held belief actually is, and whether or not it feels deep enough or believable to even your conscious brain, which then has to sort of filter through to your unconscious brain. So if you've had this negative belief for such a long time, that's a really, really deep neural pathway that sort of putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound with these affirmation statements isn't really going to work, especially if there isn't any part of you that really believes that yet or really wants that yet. And so then it's going to depend on how long you've been in recovery, how much you actually want the thing that you are using the affirmation for. And so to get that itty bitty shitty committee to change its mind, it's going to feel really fluffy to just say that superficial feeling affirmation over and over and over if it doesn't resonate in any way. And for people that maybe they're more practically minded when it comes to tangible steps of recovery or things that they can feel or act on or do, maybe that's just like not the right technique for them. Maybe affirmations just aren't for everyone, that people might need something much more practical, behavioral, and tangible. And people that don't believe it yet, if you're early in recovery and you haven't really fully decided that you want to recover, you haven't really fully decided that you're in for this, you might not believe any part of this yet. And as well, when you're in early recovery, you're physically maybe not able to have changes happen to your brain because you're so undernourished. Your brain is undernourished. You need energy to be able to have things rebuild. And that includes your brain, especially because your brain needs so much energy just to get by in a day, not to mention then start to actually change your neural pathways. So until that work has started to be done, it's really not going to work to just say the same thing over and over, which then, especially at the beginning, if you have an expectation that these affirmations are going to work for you, can be really, detrimental. It leaves you kind of feeling like, am I broken? Like, why isn't this working for me? And so it ends up actually doing more harm if you have these expectations that this is this kind of cure-all if you just say these things over and over enough. So there's ways that I have managed to have affirmations actually resonate now. And there are, different sort of tweaks, I think, to the way that we imagine the use of this that could be more helpful to some people. The first one is that I change the affirmation. I don't have just one thing that I'm focused on that's like, I'm enough, I'm enough, I'm enough, I'm enough. Because over time, we actually get desensitized to the things that we see over and over. So here's a good example. I have this Post-it note and it's stuck to my computer monitor. And it is actually a little affirmation. It says, I do not receive that. So it's this reminder to not take in the negative thoughts. I do not receive them. I do not receive them. I have not actually had that resonate for weeks now because it's been up there for, a month and a half, and I don't even notice it anymore. It doesn't even cross my mind. So you actually have to change things, move things around, not just externally in your environment, but internally in your brain, and show yourself different messages because we get desensitized to the same thing over and over. It's not novel. It's not salient. It doesn't catch our attention. And that's how we need to actually change our belief systems, is continue to change our brain and what we're focused on. I also link the affirmation that I am using to something that's going to be practical or relevant in the day that I'm using it. So I have a 5-minute journal and I just love it so much. And all of the Intelligent Change products, I wish they would sponsor me. Intelligent Change, if you ever stumble upon this podcast, please sponsor me. I use all of your things and I love them. But the 5-minute journal has an entry at the beginning of the day, and you do 3 things that you're grateful for, 3 things that would make your day great, and 1 affirmation, which starts with I am. But what I try to do is, if I know what's coming up in my day that might cause me stress or might cause me some anxiety or might be something that I just want to remind myself of, then I'll make it relevant to that day. So if I know that I have a challenging meal out, I will say, I am strong and able to overcome situations that bring me anxiety, or something shorter. Even just a reminder like I am strong or I'm overcoming will then trigger that it's relevant to something that's actually practically going to happen in my day, and sets more of an intention than just an affirmation. And sometimes I will change the wording of the affirmation, and rather than saying I am, I will do something like I will do this. And again, that's more like intention setting. It's more concrete. It's an actual actionable thing that I can take on and repeat. Now, something that is less typical affirmation, but has been much, much more helpful to me in recovery, has actually been a visualization and having more of a permission to daydream about recovery, or what I might want out of life and what might be on the other side of this. At the end of this process, who am I? Who is she? What does she look like? And then imagining it, seeing it. And that's, to me, really, really powerful. And it's really been motivating to me because I can get excited about this is what your life could be. Another visualization kind of technique that I do is going backwards and seeing little Maddie and sort of picking an age or writing a letter to a past version of myself. There's something about 4 years old to me, like what a 4-year-old Maddie would need to hear, and telling her that she's strong or telling her that she's worthy, and picturing a 4-year-old like a toddler there's something really like powerful and tragic about that. And knowing that you would never want that version of yourself to think the things about herself that you think about yourself right now. And there's something about that I've found really, really powerful as well, because it's just so sad to think like of a toddler just like having those sort of beliefs. So that's been much more resonant for me. And then finally, the wording of any affirmation and the way that we frame it has actually been studied. So there's something called declarative self-talk and interrogative self-talk. So declarative is that I am, these statements over and over. But interrogative self-talk is a question to yourself. So will I do this? Am I strong? And then it sort of plants this question where your subconscious can then answer back in some way and say, yeah, I am, and then take that action. So they actually studied this, and they put participants into these different groups, and they were asked to have statements about whether or not they could solve certain problems. And the group that was asked, will I, were twice as likely to succeed. So it's just about changing the wording maybe into a question. And that's really interesting to me as a technique. And I actually haven't really tried that, but I think that would be kind of a cool technique as well. But I think it's important to remember that the affirmations don't actually change you. It's your behavior that changes you. They don't do the work on their own. They can support you. They can feel resonant. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But you're the one that makes the change. So it can put you in the headspace, but you're still the one making that choice. And yeah, I to me, this was just kind of like a thought that I was having recently where I have a hypothesis that there are other people that are like, oh, this is fluffy and it doesn't work. And then feel a bit defeated about it because so many people, I think, tout the benefits of affirmations, and maybe with just a couple of tweaks, they can be more effective for more people. And that's all that I wanted to talk about today. Reminder, I haven't said this in a while because I always forget and it always makes me feel weird, but please give us a rating on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify and leave us a little review and reach out. Let me know if you use affirmations successfully or if you feel like I am enough is not enough. And yeah, have a great rest of your week. And I'm going to go have my iced coffee, which is, perfect because it is snowing because April in Calgary. Joy. And then I'm going to go drive through the snow to my dietitian appointment and report on my nails. and how happy I am about them. Okay. Have a great week.